On May 8, 1886, a pharmacist in Atlanta carried a new syrup to Jacob's Pharmacy. It was mixed with carbonated water and sold for 5 cents a glass. The first year was not a conquest. According to the company's own early account, sales averaged about 9 drinks a day. Yet the name written in a bookkeeper's flowing script would eventually appear on bottles, walls, refrigerators, trucks, stadiums, and shop signs across the world. The secret was not only the formula. Coca-Cola became global because it learned to reproduce an experience, the same name, the same cold promise, and a local bottle delivered within arm's reach. Its real product was not brown liquid. It was a distribution system disguised as a drink. Late 19th century America was crowded with patent medicines. Bottles promised relief from fatigue, digestion problems, headaches, nerves, and almost anything else a customer feared. Labels could run ahead of evidence because regulation was weak and the language of health sold hope. John Stith Pemberton entered that market as an Atlanta pharmacist. He had experimented with tonics containing coca leaf and cola nut. The drink that became Coca-Cola emerged after Atlanta adopted Prohibition in 1886, encouraging a non-alcoholic version of an earlier wine tonic. At Jacobs's Pharmacy, syrup met carbonated water at the soda fountain. The fountain mattered. Pharmacies were not merely shops for medicine, they were social places where flavored syrups, ice, and carbonation turned treatment language into refreshment. Early Coca-Cola contained coca leaf extract, and at that time the formula included cocaine. This fact is often presented as a shocking secret, but the historical context matters. Coca-derived products circulated legally in medicine and popular tonics. The company removed cocaine from the formula around the beginning of the 20th century while continuing to use specially processed coca leaf flavoring. The other famous ingredient, cola nut, supplied caffeine and reinforced the tonic story. The product name advertised both ingredients without explaining a recipe. In an era when stimulant beverages could be sold as remedies for modern exhaustion, that ambiguity was commercially useful. The original advertising made health claims that would not meet modern standards. Coca-Cola was promoted as stimulating, relieving exhaustion, and improving the mind. But the product's lasting advantage was not medical proof. It was repeatability. A fountain operator could measure syrup, add carbonated water, and produce a small moment of sweetness, fizz, and cold. The formula made a drink. The ritual made a habit. Pemberton's bookkeeper, Frank M. Robinson, proposed the name Coca-Cola and wrote it in the Spencerian script that still defines the brand. He believed the two C's would look good in advertising. That decision compressed the ingredients into a rhythm people could remember. The script made the name feel authored rather than typeset. Even before national distribution, the product possessed a visual identity strong enough to travel. Pemberton, however, did not live to build the empire associated with his invention. Ill, financially pressured and selling portions of his interest to different people, he lost control of the opportunity. Asa Candler gradually consolidated rights and turned Coca-Cola into an aggressively marketed fountain drink. Candler distributed coupons for free samples, placed signs and calendars, and pushed the name into public space. The price remained 5 cents for decades, helping the product feel predictable. A customer did not need to understand the ingredients. The script logo and the price did the remembering. The coupon was a small but powerful machine. A skeptical customer risked nothing on the first glass. The pharmacy received a reason to stock and serve the syrup. If the experience created a habit, later nickels repaid the free sample. Modern platforms call this customer acquisition. Candler printed it on paper. National advertising also required control. The larger the promise, the more damaging a bad fountain mix became. Too much syrup wasted money. Too little weakened flavor. Flat water, dirty glassware, or inadequate ice could damage the brand even when the concentrate was correct. Coca-Cola's reputation depended on businesses it did not own performing the ritual properly. This was one of Coca-Cola's most important transformations. A medicinal story could expire as claims changed. A trademark could outlive the claims. Branding also created a new problem. If the value lived in a name, imitators could borrow the color, the flavor, or a similar label. Coca-Cola needed a package that could defend identity beyond the fountain. First, it needed to accept that the drink belonged in a bottle at all. In 1894, Joseph Biedenharn began bottling Coca-Cola in Vicksburg, Mississippi. Bottles could reach customers who had no soda fountain nearby. The idea seems obvious now, but the company's leadership initially focused on fountain sales. In 1899, two Chattanooga lawyers, Benjamin Thomas and Joseph Whitehead, secured rights to bottle Coca-Cola across most of the United States. The agreement is often remembered for its token price, $1. What looked like a small contract created an enormous architecture. The parent company supplied syrup. Independent bottlers invested in plants, bottles, wagons, local sales, and relationships with retailers. Risk and capital were distributed across many operators, while brand rules held the product together. The economics created tension from the beginning. The original bottling agreement did not anticipate every change in ingredient price, package size, or national scale. Bottlers wanted predictable syrup costs and protected territories. The company wanted control and flexibility. Lawsuits and renegotiations became part of the system's evolution. This conflict reveals why franchise networks are difficult to copy. The map is not just a set of factories, it is a web of contracts defining who may sell, what, where, at what cost, and under whose name. This system could grow faster than one centrally owned network. A bottler understood local roads, stores, weather, and customers. The company protected the concentrate and the trademark. Each side needed the other. But rapid franchising produced inconsistency. Early bottles came in different shapes. Competitors copied labels and used names that sounded familiar. A customer reaching into ice water needed to know that the bottle in hand was genuine. The company asked glassmakers for a package so distinctive it could be recognized in the dark or even when broken. The answer would turn a container into an icon. In 1915, the Root Glass Company of Terre Haute, Indiana, developed the contour bottle. Its fluted sides, narrow waist, and bulging curves did not resemble the straight-sided packages around it. The design was a physical trademark. A retailer could remove a bottle from ice and identify it by touch. A broken fragment could still carry the curve. The package did not merely hold Coca-Cola, it taught the hand what Coca-Cola felt like. Standardization tightened the bottling system. Uniform bottles, branded coolers, delivery vehicles, and signs turned thousands of local transactions into one recognizable experience. The contour bottle was introduced gradually and changed over time. Color, glass thickness, labeling, and manufacturing adapted, but the silhouette remained legible. It became useful even after cans and plastic entered the market because advertising could invoke the shape without showing a word. That is rare brand power. An empty outline can imply a flavor. The image was carefully controlled, but the business was not frictionless. Bottlers and the parent company argued over syrup prices, territories, sweeteners, and who carried the cost of change. The network's strength came from distributed investment, its conflicts came from the same source. Advertising softened that complexity. Illustrations showed attractive people pausing for refreshment. The drink attached itself to leisure, youth, sport, holidays, and modern life. The product promised a break small enough to repeat. Then, the United States entered a world war, and the bottling system became a military logistics project. During the Second World War, Coca-Cola President Robert Woodruff declared that every American in uniform should be able to buy a bottle for 5 cents, wherever serving, and whatever the company's cost. The statement mixed patriotism, morale, and strategy. To fulfill it, company technicians known as technical observers traveled with military operations. Bottling equipment and concentrate followed troops. According to Coca-Cola's corporate history, 64 overseas bottling plants were established during the war and more than 5 billion bottles were consumed by military personnel. Those figures come from the company and should be read as part history, part institutional memory. The broader mechanism is clear. War placed Coca-Cola equipment, expertise, and demand in locations that peacetime expansion might have reached more slowly. For soldiers, the bottle could evoke home. For local civilians, it could symbolize American abundance, modernity, or occupation. The same drink carried comfort for one person and power for another. The 5-cent pledge also depended on subsidy and logistics. Maintaining a familiar price in a distant war zone was not an ordinary retail transaction. Military shipping priorities and government cooperation helped make the promise possible. Patriotism and commercial expansion overlapped so closely that separating motive from consequence becomes difficult. The company did not cause the war, and soldiers did not drink only because of advertising. But the conflict created a test no peacetime campaign could simulate. Could the system manufacture familiarity under extreme disruption? When the war ended, much of the knowledge did not disappear. Plants, routes, managers, and consumer familiarity helped support post-war growth. Coca-Cola had learned that global branding required local production. Shipping finished drink across every ocean was inefficient. Shipping concentrate and reproducing the drink near the customer was scalable. The pharmacy syrup had become a modular system. But a global system cannot survive by pretending every market is identical. Coca-Cola expanded by combining rigid elements with flexible ones. The name, script, concentrate, and central brand promise remained controlled. Bottling, package sizes, return systems, languages, retail channels, and advertising could adapt. In one place, the drink came from a fountain, in another, a returnable glass bottle. Elsewhere, a can, a plastic bottle, or a small shop refrigerator. This balance explains why Conquered the World is tempting but incomplete. The drink did not simply march outward from Atlanta and erase local tastes. Bottlers negotiated with governments, retailers, competitors, workers, and consumers. Some markets embraced it. Others restricted it, expelled it, copied it, or turned it into a political symbol. India illustrates the limits of conquest language. Coca-Cola left the market in the late 1970s amid regulatory demands and returned in the 1990s after economic liberalization. The brand's presence was neither natural nor permanent. It depended on political rules, ownership structures, and a willingness to adapt. Elsewhere, local colas used nationalism or regional taste as an advantage. A global brand could be dominant without being uncontested. The brand also absorbed local meaning. Advertising translated not only words, but occasions, meals, festivals, sport, friendship, youth, and family. A red sign could look globally familiar while the people around it understood the product through local habits. Refrigeration was crucial. Warm Coca-Cola was liquid inventory. Cold Coca-Cola was the promised experience. Branded coolers and vending machines moved the company closer to the instant of thirst. This was distribution at its most intimate. The company did not need a customer to plan a purchase. It needed the drink to be cold and visible at the moment a decision occurred. The closer Coca-Cola moved to that moment, the more the brand entered public life and the harder it became to separate refreshment from politics. Because Coca-Cola traveled with American business and military power, people often read the bottle as a miniature flag. Supporters saw consumer choice, consistency, and modern logistics. Critics saw cultural domination, labor conflict, water use, sugar, plastic waste, and corporate influence. During the Cold War, the drink could symbolize the abundance promised by capitalism. In other settings, rejecting it could perform resistance. This symbolic burden created a strange condition. The liquid could remain almost unchanged while its meaning reversed at a border. The company also faced crises produced by its own control of identity. In 1985, it changed the flagship formula in the United States and introduced what became known as New Coke. Taste tests had suggested a sweeter formula could compete more effectively. But many consumers reacted as if the company had taken away a piece of personal history. Telephone lines filled with complaints, people stockpiled the old drink. The intensity surprised executives because research had measured taste preference more easily than identity loss. Within months, the original formula returned as Coca-Cola Classic. The episode exposed what decades of branding had built. Customers did not believe they were buying only flavor. They believed they owned a relationship with a stable object. The company controlled the trademark, but memory belonged to the public. That emotional ownership is more powerful than a secret recipe. It is also dangerous, because every promise of sameness collides with changing evidence about health and environmental cost. Coca-Cola's global system makes availability look effortless. The effort is merely hidden. Water must be treated. Sweeteners, flavoring, carbon dioxide, containers, caps, labels, and cleaning systems must arrive. Bottling lines consume energy. Trucks distribute weight that is mostly water. Refrigerators keep the final product cold. Empty packages move into recycling systems, waste streams, or landscapes. Health debates change too. The drink began inside a culture of patent medicine and became an everyday source of added sugar. As evidence and public policy shifted, the company expanded into diet versions, smaller packages, water, juice, and other beverages. The portfolio changed because the old promise refreshment without a health reckoning could not remain untouched. Containers created another reversal. The refillable glass bottle had value after the drink was gone and could return through a deposit system. One way cans and plastic improved convenience and reduced breakage, but shifted more responsibility toward collection, recycling, and disposal. The package that made distribution easier could become the most visible evidence of its cost. None of this means one bottle explains obesity or environmental damage by itself. It means scale changes the moral weight of small choices. 9 drinks a day in one Atlanta pharmacy are a curiosity. Billions of servings require scrutiny. The system that made Coca-Cola powerful also makes every criticism difficult to isolate. Responsibility sits across concentrate production, bottlers, retailers, governments, consumers, waste systems, and advertising. That complexity can become an excuse. It can also reveal the real history. Coca-Cola's greatest invention was the ability to make a local transaction feel like a global constant. The first glass contained syrup, carbonated water, a 5-cent price, and a medical story its maker could not prove. What followed was not one unstoppable conquest. Frank Robinson gave the drink a name people could recognize. Asa Candler turned recognition into advertising. Bottlers turned syrup into territory. The contour bottle gave the hand a trademark. Wartime plants gave the network global routes. Refrigerators placed the promise within reach. Local adaptation made the global brand feel familiar. The formula mattered. But the formula alone could have remained a pharmacy footnote. The system made Coca-Cola difficult to escape, not because everyone was forced to drink it, but because millions of separate decisions placed the same red invitation at the exact moment of thirst. Look at a cold bottle and the liquid appears still. Behind it moves a century of glass, steel, sugar, law, advertising, war, memory, and delivery trucks. Coca-Cola did not conquer the world with a secret ingredient. It taught the world how to build the same moment everywhere. What mattered more to Coca-Cola's rise? The name, the contour bottle, or the bottling network? Choose one and defend it in the comments.